Sachitra, you can start.
All right. George Soros once said market bubbles don't grow in thin air. They have a solid basis in reality, but the reality disordered by a misconception. My dear lecturer and my dear colleagues, we are Group C5 and today we are going to present on bubbles which has burst in a dramatic end. Moving on, this is the agenda of our presentation. When it comes to the defining of economic bubbles, we can identify some characteristics such as upward price movement over an overvaluation of assets. When other factors remain same, and the end it will implode. The burst happens once investors realize that their investment is not profitable or sustainable in the end. Moving on. We'll look into the causes of economic bubbles. When it comes to the causes of economic bubbles, we can identify three main root causes. First is the behavior of investors, the behavior of price, and the behavior of financial institutes. When it comes to the behavior of investors, we can identify factors such as greediness, irrationality. When it comes to the price, we can see an upward movement of the price, and price can be higher when considered the psychological pricing and the actual. When it comes to the financial institutes, we can identify aggressive lending behavior of banks or the excessive credit or money created by the central banks. Moving on to the theoretical aspect of the economic bubbles. When it comes to the theoretical aspect, we identify two another new theories. First is the herding theory, where it explains the tendency of individuals which imitate the large group irrespective of the rationale. This creates crowd buying and selling, and not only the individuals, but also can identify that institutional investors create this, move into this bubble because of the benchmarking. If their competitor has in a bubble, then automatically institutions move into the bubble. Next is the explanation theory, where investors tend to project historical data into future, believing that history will repeat. Though the context is same, price will continue to increase. And this will create the expectation below, and investors tend to burst the bubble. When it comes to the stages, the throughout the presentation, while considering the examples, we will discuss the stages of the economic bubbles. I will hand over to Surandika to continue the rest.
Thank you, Sachitra. Moving on. In this VUCA world, the only constant thing is the regular changes in business world. Therefore, the traders and investors often live in eternal fear of crash or burst in the bubble. This can be eliminated to an extent by identifying the said bubble as well as the critical time of when it could possibly burst. In order to understand the crashes and bubbles better, if we have a proper terminology or algorithm to predict the distribution of critical times. Thus, log periodic power law model was introduced as a model to detect bubbles and to extend knowledge when economic bubbles are going to happen. This model was developed by combining economic theory of rational expectation bubbles, behavioral finance of imitation and herding of investors and traders, mathematical and statistical physics of divisions and phase transitions. The main diagnostics used in model are increasing asset prices, which is faster than exponential growth, and accelerating oscillations. This represents a positive bubble loop of higher return anticipations competing with negative feedback of spirals of crash expectations. Therefore, log periodic power law model is adapted to negative bubbles and implement a pattern recognition method to predict the end time of the negative bubbles. Thus, this model is highly useful in predicting the distribution of the critical times of bubbles. Over to you, Kavind.
Thank you, Surandika. So, as the example, we are going to explain about the Japanese asset price bubble, which occurs in 1986 to 1991 period. So, if we first look at the economy of the Japan in 1980s, Japan was the leading tech industry. So, they have a strong export market, which represents 13 to 14% of their GDP. And with the dollar appreciation in 1980 to 85 period, this Japan with that the Japan products become more competitive in the foreign market. So if you're moving on with this dollar appreciation, US has suffered mainly because their exports were very expensive and imports become cheaper. So as a result of that, Plaza Accord came into play. So in 1985, September 22nd, Plaza Accord has signed that was devalue the dollar against the G5 country currencies. So as you can see in the right hand side, how the appreciation happened, and after the Plaza Accord, how the depreciation happened has shown. So this is the background. So if you're moving on, so following the Plaza Accord, so Japan yen has been appreciated. So due to that, the Japan exports become less competitive. So this leads to slow down the economy of Japan because their exports account to 13 to 14% of their GDP. So Japan local government do not want to slow their economy, so they plan to boost their local economy. So for that, they want to circulate money within the Japan. So based on that, they have cut down their interest rate to avoid the investment in savings, so and encourage banks to lend more to individuals and corporates. So with that, people start to invest in share market and real estate instead of bank savings. So moving on, with the speculation comes to play, so people start to invest on real estate and the stock market. And at that time, the Japan accounting standards were allowed to record the capital gains, unrealized capital gains, in their profit and loss account. So corporates starts to invest on real estate, and they cross buy the shares in the other corporates. So this leads to show bigger profits to their profit and loss account. With that, they have a higher profit, and people began to purchase shares as well. And in order to invest in the real estate, they borrow from the financial institution. So financial institution keep lending because they can keep the that relevant real estate as the collateral for their lending. So the cycle has began that financial institutions keep lending, keeping the collateral, and corporates are investing on the real estate. And with the real estate increases, they record the capital gain. So profit goes up, then they will borrow more based on that. So this cycle has continued. So as a consequences, uh, moving on, we can see in 1985 to 1989 period, Japan housing prices increased by 300%. And with the share price increases, Nikkei index has increased from 13,000 to 38,915. And Japan real estate value equals to USA real estate value, which is 5 times bigger than the Japan. And the Japan Imperial Palace real estate value exceed itself the California real estate value in USA. So share prices has been 60 times higher than the price to earnings ratios. And corporates has not focused on their dominant business. Instead, they do the investment in real estate, and their capital structure become highly leveraged. Moving on. So with that, the government has understand there's a bubble creation, so they come up with the restriction that they introduce restrictions to the loan volume of the real estate. So with that, there's a immediately drop down in availability of credit for the real estate. And they also come up with restrictions to take approval from local board office for any transaction of a land which is more than 100 square meters. So with that, they have and they have increased the interest rate to 6%. So with these three determinants, that they have blocked this real estate pricing. But it has clashes the whole economy because everyone is investing on the real estate. So With that, the corporates couldn't show the profits because the balance sheet showing lands are not valued that much. So Nikkei index crashed to 20,000 within 9 months, and the financial institution was swamped in the bad loans due to this asset price tumble. And land prices also eventually started to dropping. So afterwards, uh, Bank of Japan was the first central bank to get caught in the low interest rate trap and have been at zero interest rate and thereabouts since 1998. And Japan began to take debt from 1919, and now it's over 200% from their GDP, and 18 trillion yen to deal with the liquidation of failed financial institutions, 25 trillion yen to recapitalization of the banks. And even though in 1990 to 2000 period called as lost decade, after 3 decades, still their standard of living has not been improved. So that is our analysis on the case study. And then I hand over to Sanjay for our team viewpoint.
Thank you, Kavinder. Well, bubble is kind of a phenomena that could occur within the society in different forms. The best recent example is Dhammika Paniya, which was able to attract people within very shorter period, but suddenly collapsed soon after issuing a letter by the government to stop selling it to general public. Similarly, economic bubbles can also exist in the market, like dot-com bubble that could spike up suddenly and burst soon after. Well, bubbles can be burst due to many factors, which can be internal or external, like rising interest or rising inflation rates in the market. However, we still believe that these bubbles can recognize early because financial markets and the bubbles are not mysterious. By having a deep understanding of the four phases and careful analysis of the red line of Dr. Paul Rodrigo's stages curve, it is possible to recognize where you are and what will happen next. In that sense, we expect to play an important role by the experts. But even smart individuals blindly become greater fools by paying higher price for assets which exceeds the fundamental value of it. And many of them are middle to upper level income earners who largely contribute for creating bubbles by neglecting their basic due diligence. Now we will look at how we can avoid such bubbles. Well, there's a greater responsibility with the state-based regulatory bodies in enforcing financial regulations at right time, especially in the free market. And in the same time, make necessary arrangement to increase public awareness on such changes. And as investors, we also should avoid panic selling based on the near-term profits, risks, or other concerns, because nobody can predict what exactly will happen in the market and how it will behave in the short term. Therefore, better to focus on long term and diversify your portfolio, which will recover you in time. Similarly, the experts like economists and financial institutions also have a responsibility in recognizing these trends and communicate accurately. However, as per Minsky, economic bubbles are unavoidable in free market economy. Over to you, Charita.
Thank you, Sanjay. We then move to the discuss about the possible future bubbles we have identified. The first possible future bubble we have identified is the share price of the Tesla Incorporation. Since 2020, the share price of Tesla is increasing rapidly. It has created a large market capitalization for the company, and when we analyze about the PE ratio of the company, currently it stands at 650. It is very unrealistic value, so we would think that a bad sentiment on the company would burst this bubble. Moving on. Then we discuss about the US vehicle price market in US. Due to the shortage of production of semiconductors and new vehicles, there is a rise of the price of used vehicles market in USA. But when the production becomes normal, the bubble will be burst and then the prices will be down. So moving on. Then we discuss about the gold prices in the world. Previously, the all-time high value was recorded in 2011, but due to the pandemic, the gold prices has been increased since 2020. So after the pandemic, the gold prices will be also burst. With this, we end our presentation asking all the MBAs to be vigilant on the market and not to be the greatest fools for the market. Thank you.
Good. I like the way Charita ended the presentation, inviting all our MBA learning community to be vigilant and not to be the greatest fools. Yeah, that's the key reason why I incorporated this into the syllabus. So at least you all will not become the greatest fools. A good way to finish the presentation. Your theoretical analysis was good. I like the introduction of LPPL theory, which has its challenges. In hindsight, LPPL theory could not predict the US bubble crash in hindsight, but it predicted the China crash in advance. Nor it could predict the Japanese asset pricing model. So it has its weaknesses, but I'm happy that you brought in an alternate model to Professor Rodrigue, which is always encouraged. For that effort, I'll give you full marks for theoretical analysis. Practical analysis, I would say it had disappointing. Very good case study, but you missed out a crucial point, which is to analyze the case study in relation to a model. So your model was missing. You explained it as a story. The story was very nice and very factual and very correct, but you should have explained it in relation to a model. This is a education class, no? So either Professor Rodrigue's model, the 4 phases, or the LPPL model. So it had a lot of factual values, but I think the key missing point was the analogy in relation to a model. I think if you look at your previous group, B8, they took the US housing crash and at least made an effort to analyze it against a model. So therefore, you will lose a lot of marks there. I cannot give you anything more than 4 out of 7. Presentation was good. Slightly less in energy, but it's okay. Maybe you were a little excited. But the slides were well compiled. Presenters did a good job. So I will award you full marks there. So full marks for theory, full marks for presentation, 3 marks less on the practical analogy. You will get 17 out of 20 for your effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Right. So now to sort out our presentation for next week, we will have one of the most enterprising topics to present next week. Possibly this is the most popular session in corporate business finance that we are going to teach today. So let me ask our host, Prabhash, who are the 2 groups?
Yes, sir. First one was group D8 by Sanjay Ratnavir. He has sent the message first. And the second one, group D6, Chaturani Senarath has sent the message, sir.
Right. So David 8 and David 6. Prabhash, is it D for David?
Yes, sir. D for David. Yeah. both are D8, D6.
Okay, so can I get a quick confirmation from David 8 that they are ready to present next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a quick confirmation from David 6.
Yes, sir, we will present next week. Thank you.
Okay, all right, fine. So I will give your topic as we move on. As we move on, okay? All right, okay. Let me. Super. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the stock market and the market efficiencies. A very well received lecture. So I have a few students guaranteed after this session opening up accounts in the stock market and try to trade stocks, right? Some succeed, some don't. The helm of this is, I don't know whether I shared this with you before, this year, January, actually, 2021. Suddenly, out of the blue, I got a call from one of the former students inviting me for dinner. So I did not know the exact reason, but I accepted it. So he asked me to come to a restaurant. And to my surprise, there were 6 other EIM MBA students. If I'm not mistaken, they were 2016 batch. So then when I asked politely what is the reason for this dinner, they said after my stock market lecture, all 6 started trading in stocks. And at that time, they were millionaires. One actually had a portfolio of about 20 million, starting very small. So now they've even lost interest of their full-time job. They're just doing it to maintain their career, but they're earning a lot of money out of stock market. So they've thought that in return of gratitude, they should give me a nice dinner. So I gave them furthermore points to invest and divest. And at that time, the market was at a mini bubble. This is January 2021. So they were boasting a lot to me, saying, "Sir, I have this, I have this, I have this much portfolio, this much portfolio." I immediately told them, "Look, there's a crash coming, a mini crash by March. So before March, you sell a few and convert to cash and keep." So some took my advice, some thought their God's gift didn't. So some actually lost a lot of money in March. So these are interesting phenomena. And I will give you a few concepts today which might provoke your thoughts. Let's start off with something very simple. Let's take this news item. So today you guys don't read newspapers, no? So about 5-6 years ago, I used to bring a newspaper into the class and get students to read that. But now what I do is I take an example of a website. So here it says John Keel's net profit is up by how much? Up by 7.2 billion rupees, right? And this is an equivalent of 3 rupees 67 cents per share. Right. So this is what I pick from this news article. John Keel's shares are up by 3 rupees 67 per share. So literally, the John Keel's share price should go up by 367 because this is a value creation, we call it VC, value creation. Company has created value. So let's say if all of us see this article for the first time, unfortunately, everybody would not read this article at the same time. Some might read the article very early in the morning. Some might read it with their coffee break. Some might read it at the lunch break. Some might read it in the evening. So different people read the same article at different times, unfortunately. So if this is a fact and this is true news, how would the share price move? I have not uploaded this into the portal, so you need to take a screenshot also. If we assume that the today's share price is 170, John Keel's, and if they have created value, see the value creation, if they have created value of 367, how do we know about it? We know about it through news. So obviously, in the near future, the John Keel's share price should rise to 173.67. What is the logic? Their share price is 170 today, and we just saw a news that they have recorded 367 profits. So very soon, the share price should rise up to 173.67. Now the thing is, different people will read this article at different times. All will not read it at the same time. So as a result, people will now start buying John Keel shares because there's a value creation. Because different people read this news at different times and they respond also at different times, the share price will not jump to 173.67. It will not jump. It will slowly go up. Right? It will slowly go up. Why it wouldn't jump? Because different people will see this article at different times and decide to purchase also at different times. Right? And after 173.67, obviously the share price will not move after that. See, it's dead. Why is that? Because the share has already now been adjusted to the piece of news. Share has already been adjusted to the piece of news. And the share will only jump again for the next piece of news. So until the next piece of news comes in, the share price will no more go up. Until the next piece of news come in, the share price will no more go up. Now look how people can take profits in the stock market, right? Now let's say Kamal, right, who saw this piece of news and responded immediately and bought the shares at on day one itself. If Kamal bought the shares, what would be Kamal's short-term profits? Or let me call it gain. What would be Kamal's short-term gain? His gain would be 171 minus, 173 minus 171. So Kamal has gained 267. Let's say Mala, who is a bit lazy, who doesn't read news on time, maybe she read this news a day later, and on the day she read the news, she was not feeling good, so she only bought the shares another day later, which is 2 days later. And now Mala is making a lesser gain than Kamal. Mala is making a lesser gain than Kamal. Got it? Now let's say Ajanta, who is even more lazier, or reading the news very late, or even after reading the news, actioning also very late. So Ajanta bought it day 3 at a much higher price than Kamal or Mala, for that matter. And poor Ajanta is making only 1 rupee profit. Now if you take Ravi, who didn't see the news article at all, and suddenly accidentally saw the article on day 4 and responded pretty fast to that. So how much is Ravi making? Only 27 cents. So you see Kamal reading the news and acting fast versus Ravi reading the news very late and not acting as swift as Kamal. See the value difference in the gain between Kamal and Ravi. For that matter, if we now take, let's say, Romesh or something, who saw the article 5 days late and rushed and bought his shares at 173.67, what is he gaining? He gains nothing, because by the time he responds to the piece of news, the share market had already adjusted to it. So in this example, the share market took 5 days to respond and adjust to the news article. After the 5 days, until the next piece of news comes in, no more movements. This is how the share markets move. So first learning is read your news fast and act faster. Read your news fast and act faster. Do we have questions?
Excuse me, sir. Just have a small clarification. Now, in this particular example that you showed, now there are 4 people that have purchased the stocks day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and it has come to the advertised, the price of the share that was in the news. So my question is, sir, like, is there a minimum number of people that have to actually purchase a share for it to increase to this particular level? What if people are not, even though the company has an increase in the net profit and an increase in the share price, what if there is not that much of an interest in people and not many people actually buy the shares? Will it actually come to this share price that is shown in the news.
Very good. May I know your name?
My name is Aman.
Aman. Okay. So,
Yes.
guys, I'm going to move away from this little Excel fiasco. So, if you want to take a screenshot, you may now. Perfect. Right. Now, that's a very good question from Aman. Right. So, let me come back to my presentation. Okay. Now, Aman's question is this. Now, if you take a share price graph where the x-axis is time, obviously. Right. It's time. Now, currently, the share is at 170. Currently, the share is at 170. With John Keel's making a profit of ₹3.67, the share should go, as per the economic fundamentals, to 173, no? 173 something, 60 something, no? So the share should go to this level, right? Because as human beings, we always like to take profits. So Aman, sooner or later, right? Sooner or later, it will come here, right? Because the human brain can figure out a simple instruction that a company valued at 170 rupees has made a further 3 rupee profit. So obviously, the new value of the company is 173. So oka human brain ekata තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන්. The question is how fast. Now there can be certain economies where people are not very keen on the stock market. The interest is not that great. Money circulation is good or sorry guys, I lost power at home. So yeah, Prabhash, can you hear me? Hello? Guys, can you hear me and see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. So Aman, the point is whether it will go or not, it will definitely go. Because as human beings, we will definitely process this in our heads. The big question is when. In certain economies, depending on the money circulation, interest in people on the stock market, the prices will adjust very fast like this. Within a day, the prices will adjust like this. Right? A පැත්ත බලලා මේ පැත්ත බලද්දි price එක adjust වෙලා. Right? So if you are a day late in responding to this piece of news, you have already lost the opportunity. But if you take places like Sri Lanka on certain times only, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, people might take a little bit of time to adjust. So that means the price hike will happen gradually over time, like this. So it is definitely not about whether the price hike will happen or not. It is about when or how fast it will happen. If the price hike happens immediately, that means people respond hatas to a piece of news, we call them efficient markets. London Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, Japanese Stock Exchange are very efficient markets where within a matter of hours, people respond. But if you take the other stock exchanges, which are not very developed in the world, people might take time to respond like this. But it's never a question of whether it will happen or not. It's the question of when it will happen. Am I clear, Aman?
Yes, that's clear. Thank you.
Sir, shall I ask a question?
Yes.
Sir, you mentioned that, like, for example, in the day one, Kamal, you mentioned that he got a gain, but his share should be bought by a greater fool for him to get the gain, right? No need.
Partly yes and partly no. Right. Now, that's a very good question. Let me go back to that little document. Right. Now, let's say on day 5, Kamal sells his share to Romesh. Kamal sells his share to Romesh, right? So let me mark Kamal selling his share to Romesh, right? So Romesh is not the greater fool because Romesh is actually buying the stock for a fundamental reason. For a fundamental reason, no, because the real value of the stock is 173.67. The greater fool means tomorrow, if let's say Aman comes in and buy the stock for 181 for no reason from Romesh, then Aman is a greater fool. But up to 173, it's not the greater fool theory because the stock has a fundamental valuation of 173. Fundamentally right now, up to 173, fundamentally right. කවුරුහරි 180කට ඇවිල්ලා ගත්තොත් අන්න ඒ මනුස්සයා තමයි greater fool. Okay. Right? So let me further move so you will understand this even better. I've got 2 text messages. I read them. I will answer them a little later. So the fundamental analysis in the stock market, which is the biggest tool I use to manage the stock market, is about value creation or value diminution, right? Value creation or value diminution. So if you are a player in the stock market, you have to carefully see what actions of the company creates value, what actions of companies diminishes value. Value creations will lead to share price going up. Value diminution will lead to share price coming down. So if you keep a close track of such, you can take some very simple buy-sell decisions. But there's another school of thought. Let's not do fundamental analysis. Let's do technical analysis. This is where the greater fool theory comes in, right? So the technical analysis says in the last few minutes, if the share has been going up, they color the share in green. In the last few minutes, if the share has been coming down, they color the share in red. So what they simply say is, in the last few minutes, if the share is up, you buy. If the last few minutes, if the share is down, you don't buy.
We
Or you
can't
sell.
see your screen.
Is it? You can't see my screen?
No, we can't see your screen, sir.
Now you can, nah?
Yes.
Yeah, sir. Now we can.
Yeah. So technical analysis says, in the last few minutes, if your share is down, in the last few minutes, they color the share in red. So you sell the share or don't buy the share. In the last few minutes, if the share is up, so you buy the share and don't sell the share, right? Now, before this corona pandemic, I've seen so many stockbrokers who invites, especially these retired servants of government or even private sector. So there are large waiting rooms in their stockbroking sections. I know Capital Trust used to do this. So they give them tea and cake and patties and all that. So they just wait, seeing this green and red. So if it is green, they buy. If it is red, they don't buy or sell. So these are called day traders. They go by the technical analysis. But my advice is to go by the fundamental analysis. That means you keep an eye on what creates value for a company and what reduces value for a company. If you keep a close track, you can make a lot of money. So there are two types of analogies: fundamental analysis and technical analysis. Now, in this process of fundamental analysis, what is it meant by market efficiency? How fast does a piece of news reflects in the share price? If a piece of news reflects in the share price pretty fast, it's called a strong market efficiency. If a piece of news reflects in the share price very late, we call it weak market efficiency. So let me give you some examples. This was argued by our famous Eugene Fama in 1970. You can read about it. I have uploaded Eugene Fama's arguments in the portal. So you don't have to look anywhere. It's there in the portal. So let me give you an example, a very Sri Lankan example of strong market efficiency. Sampath Bank announces a share split right? When 27th January 2021. So how old this example? This example is not even 5 months old. When did they announce it? 4:21 in the evening. දැන් මේ වෙනකොට stock market එකත් වහලා. තුනට වහනවානේ. දැන් ජනවාරි 27 වෙනිදා හවස 4:21ට තමයි සම්පත් බැංකුව public දැනුම් දෙන්නේ. Public. මම එතනටත් එන්නම්. How the public, how the non-public කියලා. Public දැනගන්නේ, public කියන්නේ කවුද? You and me. අපිට වෙන information එන විදියක් නැහැනේ. අපිට ඇතුලෙන් information එන්නේ නැහැනේ. We call it insider information. Right? Public information අපි දැනගන්නේ ජනවාරි 27 වෙනිදා හවස 4:21ට. Right? මෙන්න eating, drinking, breathing exam. ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා shares will be subdivided කියලා. Right? Shares will be subdivided කියලා. So share එකක් subdivide කරාම මොකද වෙන්නේ? දැන් මේ වෙන වෙලාවේ සම්පත් බැංකුවේ share එකක් was about 180 rupees. share එකේ price එක ලොකු වෙන්න මේකේ tradability එක අඩු වෙනවා. So සම්පත් මොකද කරන්නේ? මේක subdivide කරනවා හතරකට. Right? හතරකට නෙවෙයි තුනකට. I'm sorry. Right? මේක තුනකට subdivide කරනවා. එතකොට share එකක් price එක අඩු වෙනවා 60කට. But only thing is you'll get 3 shares, so you have the same value. So when you subdivide a share, what happens? The tradability of the share goes up. Why? Now the price is small, no? So even somebody with less money can buy it now. So generally, when a share is subdivided, the share tends to go up. And that's a value creation. So the normal fundamental belief is when a share is subdivided, the share price will go up by about 5-6%. So this was announced on 27 January 2021 at 4:21 p.m. එතකොට stock market එකත් වහලා. The earliest you can respond to this is the 28th of January. Right? Earliest you can respond to this is the 28th of January. See what happened. Right? See what happened on the 29th of January. See what happened. Right? So let's quickly check whether 28th of January is a weekend.
Sir?
Yeah.
So will they not normally suspend trading for 2 or 3 days to update the CDS records according to the split shares?
No, they when they issue the public notice at 4:24, they update the CDS also. So the next day morning, this thing is available in the CDS.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So let's 27th of January. Let me check what it is. January 27th is a Wednesday. Yeah, no. Yeah, January 27th is a Wednesday. So you can see how fast the market responded to this, right? By 29th January, right? By 29th January, that means within a day, the share price, දැන් මේ subdivision එකට ඉස්සලා මේ සම්පත් කියන්නේ subdivide කරනවා කියලා. ඒගොල්ලෝ date එකක් දෙනවා. See how the market responded to this. within a day, the share price shot up from 170 to 220 within a day, right? The news came on the 27th of January, end of the day. So this is how fast the market responded. So you can see sometimes Sri Lanka. So this is like, to example, I have just taken a screenshot of my own share trading platform, right?
Excuse me, sir. On 28th January, it's full moon power day.
ඒක තමයි මම බැලුවේ මොකද උනේ කියලා. Yeah, thank you very much for telling me that. So 28th of January is Poya. Make a Poya. Thank you very much. So 28th of January is Poya. So January 27 වෙනිදා හවස 4ට කිව්වේ share එක subdivide කරනවා කියලා. එතකොට share market එක වහලා ඊළඟ දවසේ Poya. Thank you very much. එතකොට share එක respond කරලා තියෙනවා 29 වෙනිදා උදේවරුේ. So there were only few hours and people responded to this news. Few hours. See how calm the share was. See how calm the share was all that time. See how calm the share was all this time. Right? අපි පොය ඩේ එක අමතක කරොත් තමුන්ට නිවුස් එක ලැබෙන්නේ කොයි වෙලාවේද? තමුන්ට නිවුස් එක ලැබෙන්නේ මෙන්න මෙතනදී. පොය ඩේ එක අමතක කරොත් මෙන්න මෙතනදී තමයි සම්පත් බැංකුව කියන්නේ අපි ෂෙයා එක ස්ප්ලිට් කරනවා කියලා. ඊළඟ දවසේ උදේ බලනකොට මේක පැය කීපයක් ඇතුළත රුපියල් 60කට නැගලා. So this is how Sri Lanka in certain occasions responds. So market efficiency can be situational. It is not country specific. It can be situational. And I'll tell you another reason for this.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So what's the reason due to split the price hike?
Because the share will be much more easier to trade. It's tradable.
But there's no value addition by the company in this case, right?
No value addition by the company, but the trading unit becomes smaller. So it is easier to trade, and therefore there's a demand.
Okay.
You take a large, like let's say you have a 10-acre land which you inherited from your grandfather, a 10-acre land. How difficult is it for you to sell that 10-acre land in one go? Now you cut your 10-acre land into small pieces of 20 perches. Is it easier to sell when you cut your land to 20 perches, or is it easier to sell when you have that large 10-acre land?
Yeah, easy in small pieces.
Easy in small pieces. So share split, share price goes up. So here,
excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Another small question. What makes a company to split the share, sir?
Tradability. If they think that the share is too big and people are reluctant to participate in share trading, they can split it.
Is there a advantage for the shareholders, like script or cash dividend wise? Will the shareholders be getting more once it is split this way?
No. Earlier, if the share was big, if you were paid a 1 rupee dividend, now if the share is now cut into 4, you will be paid 25 cents into 4.
So after some time on the 29th of January, we see the prices also reduced. Is it because of the lesser demand, sir, once the prices increased to 220?
That is because of the greater fool theory. Because some people who do not know the fundamentals overshoot the purchases. So that's like a mini bubble, no? Right? That's like a mini bubble. Smart investors analyze this and buy it. But then people like y'all who don't know why you're buying, all what you see is the Sampath Bank share going up. එවනම් අපිත් ගම්මු කියලා මේ මෝඩ විදිහට මේ අන්තිම කෑල්ල එල්ලෙනවා මෙන්න මේ හරියදී. ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි හැමතිස්සෙම ෂෙයා මාකට් එකේ සල්ලි නැති කරගන්නේ. අපි හුඟක් වෙලාවට ෂෙයා මාකට් එකේ ගන්න මෙන්න මේ හරියදී. මේ හරිය තමයි අපි ගන්න. අපි කවදාකවත් මෙතන ප්ලේ කරන්නේ නැහැ. So මේ තමයි ඕවර්ෂූට් එක. දැන් මේක හරිනම් ෂෙයා එක 220ට කියලා නතර වෙන්න ඕනනේ. Fundamentally. Right? But මේ overshoot වෙලා ඒ correction එක තමයි මේ පෙන්නන්නේ. So මේ හරිය තමයි සල්ලි නැති වෙන්නේ. Okay, let me go to the next example so you will understand better. Right. Now, let's take another example. Danko to a porcelain. Okay. This example is 11 years old now, but it has some beautiful value. By July 2010, right? By May 15th, right? Some Japanese investors did a pre-feasibility study having the intention to buy Danko to a porcelain. This news leaked to the market. This news leaked to the market. Right. So now I'll tell you a few facts about Danko to a porcelain. At that time, now it is actually run by one of my good friends, Channa. Those days, Danko Tour was not doing very well, but their biggest market was Japan. Their biggest market was Japan. The biggest buyers of their products was from Japan. So now you get a piece of news in the papers that Japanese are looking at buying the company. Can you tell me, would this increase the company's value? Is it value creation? And as a result, will the share price go up or will the share price come down? You tell me. Danko to a porcelain. Majority of the buyers are from Japan. Now a Japanese company is trying to buy it. Will the share price go up or will the share price come down?
Should go up.
Go up.
Why should it go up? Let me make it easy for you.
Yeah, Japanese company.
Japanese management versus Sri Lankan management. I'm sorry to put our country down, but whom do you think has better management skills, Japs or Sri Lankans?
Japanese.
Japs. At least 11 years ago. Japanese owner selling to a Japanese buyer versus a Sri Lankan owner, when I say selling, a Japanese owner selling its products to a Japanese buyer, Sri Lankan owner selling its products to a Japanese buyer. Who has a better chance?
The first one. Japanese
owner selling to us. So Japanese will turn the company around they will create a good market for Danko to a porcelain, and as a result, the share price should go up. So if you are a rational investor in the share market, after you see this piece of news, you should buy Danko to porcelain. And make a වෙනස මේකයි. මේ නිවුස් එක ඔබලා දකිනවා. දැකලා ඔබලා අහක බලා ගන්නවා. මේ නිවුස් එක මම දකිනවා. මම Danko to porcelain shares ගන්නවා. එකම නිවුස් එක මේ ලංකාවේ මිලියන 22ක් කියවනවා. බොහෝම පොඩි පිරිසක් තමයි මේකට රෙස්පොන්ඩ් කරන්නේ. right? එකම නිවුස් එක මේ ලංකාවේ මිලියන 22ක් කියවනවා. බොහෝම පොඩි පිරිසක් තමයි මේකට රෙස්පොන්ඩ් කරන්නේ. Now I'll show you the rationale. Right? So this is the rationale. I don't have an upload here, so you will have to take a screenshot. Danko to a porcelain share price at the time the news hit the market was 20 rupees. Danko to a porcelain share price at the time the news hit the market was 20 rupees. So when we read the news saying that the Japs are going to buy, so this is how smart people interpret it. This is the smart people's interpret it. News. Japs are going to buy. Japs are good people. They will find new markets. New markets will bring in new sales. New sales will bring in new profits. Right? Then make a තේරුම් ගන්න MBA එකක් PhD එකක් ඕනේ නෑනේ. Japs are good people. They will find new markets. New markets will bring in new sales. And new sales will bring in new profits. So therefore, in my calculation, there will be 40 more rupees value creation. Share price should go up to 60 rupees in the near future. Vissa 60ක් වෙනවා. 60 අමතක කරන්නකෝ. share price එක නගිනවා. ඒක guarantee. But ඔබලා බලන්න share price එක කොච්චර හෙමින්ද නැග්ගේ කියලා. ඔබලා බලන්න share price එක කොච්චර හෙමින්ද නැග්ගේ කියලා. මේ තමයි ඇත්තටම share price එක නැගපු විදිය. It took 33 days. It took 33 days for the share price to come up to at least 40 rupees. Forget the 60 rupees. And it took 50 days for the share price to come up to this level. Ban Lanka minisu kochchara modada kiyala. It took 50 days to come up to this level. Sampath Bank example, market responded in a matter of hours. In this example, it took 53 days for the market to come up to the fundamental analysis level. Right? Got it? Now, let me show you the real graph.
So how did you calculate the profits?
That's a bit of a long explanation. Just forget the 40 rupees. Just that depends on the capacity of the company, the markets. That's a bit of a toughie. Just leave that out. At least try to understand that the share price is going up, right? So this is how, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is how the Danko to porcelain share price moved. When did the Japanese come? Japanese at least said that they are going to buy the company on 15th of May. 15th of May. 15th of May. The share price reached the 60 desired fundamental levels on the 20th of July. Sorry, on the 20th of July. Right? Got it? Then the share price crazily went up to 140. මේ තමයි අර මෝඩ මිනිස්සු, right? මේ තමයි smart investors ලා මේ තියෙන්නේ මේ bubble එකේ smart face එක, smart investors, right? ඒ කියන්නේ news item එක කියවනවා, right? Japanese are good people, price එක යයි, ඒ හින්දා අපි ගමු. So when I bought the Ankoto porcelain, I bought it at 20 rupees. And exactly when it hit 60 rupees, I sold. Right? So that's the smart investor. The make how the may tamai mania face. May the mania face make how the may tamai the general public. Ogollo wage කට්ටිය. යාළුවෙක් කතා කරලා කියනවා මචං දංකොටුව නගිනවා අපි දන්නේ නැහැ මොකද නගින්නේ ගම්මු. මේ තමයි අර ස්ටොක් බ්‍රෝකර්ස් ලගාවට වෙලා රතු කොළ බල ඉන්නේ, රතු නම් ගන්න එපා කොළ නම් ගන්න. ඉතින් මේ මිනිස්සු ගන්නවා ඇයි දන්නේ ගන්නෙ මේ. ඊට පස්සේ මේ ක්‍රෑෂ් වෙනවා. බලන්න ක්‍රෑෂ් වෙන්නේ හරියටම කීයටද කියලා. හරියටම ක්‍රෑෂ් වෙන්නේ 60ටනේ ළමයි මේ. 60ටනේ ක්‍රෑෂ් වෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ තමයි අර ඕවර් රියැක්ෂන් එක. මේ තමයි ඒ ඕවර් රියැක්ෂන් එක මිනිස්සු කරෙක්ට් කරගන්න. 60 හරිනේ. 60 හැදුවේ කොහොමද කියලා දැන් මම කියලා දෙන්න බෑ, මම කියලා දෙන්නම්. Right? But at least if you are smart by looking at this news article, මේ හරියද ගන්න පුළුවන්. අරන් මේ හරියද විකුණන්න පුළුවන්. What I want to show you is how long it took in Sri Lanka. How long it took in Sri Lanka for people to respond to this. It took them 53 days. It took them 53 days this time to respond to this. So in this example, Sri Lanka is a very, very, very weak, efficient market. In the Sampath Bank example, Sri Lanka is a very, very, very strong, efficient market. Got it? I'm not even worried about this. This is like the crazy foolishness of general public. My analysis is only up to this point. Yeah. Okay. One more example, then I will pause for questions, right? 2010, October. Amaya Reef, owned by Dhammika Pereira, bought a 7-acre land at Vaskadua. This is when the war is over and the tourism industry was like going into a tangent. So Amaya Reef bought a 7-acre land and they appointed Mr. Prema Kure as a director. Who is Prema Kure? A veteran at Aitken Spence. He was the vice president hotels for Aitken Spence. He retired after some 40 years of service at Aitken Spence. One of the like gods kind of in the tourism industry. And moment he retired, Dhammika Pereira offered him employment at Amaya. So two things happened in October 2010. Prema Kure joining Amaya and them buying a 7-acre land in Vaskadua. Now you tell me, දැන් මේ news එක ඔබත් කියවනවා උදේට කෝපි බොන ගමන් මමත් කියවනවා උදේට කෝපි බොන. Now you tell me, if you see this piece of news what would you do? Would you buy Amaya Reef shares or would you sell Amaya Reef shares?
Buy.
Buy, obviously, right? දැන් මේ සැරේ calculations උත් ලේසියිනේ. calculations ලේසි. ප්‍රේමා කුරේට මොනවද කරන්න පුළුවන්? ඒ වෙනුවෙන් profits කොච්චර උඩට යයිද? ගන්න simple understanding එකක්. ඕක ප්‍රේමා කුරේ will increase profits by 20%. එච්චරයි. මේ අලුත් හෝටලෙන් මෙන්න මෙච්චරක් profit එයි. right? එතකොට ඒක අවුරුදු දෙකක් නම් යන්නේ හෝටලේ හදන්න. rooms ගාන අරගෙන, right? ඒ රූම්ස් උත් අපිට හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් නේ 7 acre land එකක rooms කොච්චර ගහන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. එතකොට room එක ඩොලර් 100 ගානේ දැම්මොත් දැන් අර කලින් එක්කන ඇහුවනේ කොහමද මම මේ 60 රුපිය එක හදාගත්තේ කියලා. එතකොට room එකකට මෙච්චරයි, room එකේ profit එක මෙච්චරයි. මෙහෙම හදලා අවුරුදු දෙකකට පස්සේ තමයි මේ profit එක එන්නේ. මොකද හෝටලේ හදන්න අවුරුදු දෙකක් යනවා. එතකොට ඒක අපිට NPV analysis එකකින් present value කරගන්න පුළුවන්. present value කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන් share එක කීයටද යන්නේ කියලා. very simple. calculator එකකුයි හොඳ මොලේකුයි තියෙනවනේ calculate කරගන්න පුළුවන්. so this is how people responded to this. So what do you think about Sri Lanka now? You saw the Sampath Bank example where people responded in hours. You saw the Dankotu porcelain example where people took some 53 days to respond. So Amaya Reef share price, which was some 20 rupees at the time news broke into this market, 20 rupees. People responded up to 92 rupees. Right? හරි valuation එක කීයද? හරි valuation එක තියෙන්නේ මේ ගානේ. මේ තමයි අර over reaction එක. හැමතිස්සෙම පේනවද over reaction එක. මේ over reaction එකේ මිනිස්සු මෙන්න මේ හරියේදී play කරන්න කියලා තමයි අර රෝමියෝ කුච්ච ගන්න. So හරි valuation එක 50ක් විතර. Right? So in my case I bought it at 20 and I sold it at 40, right? But it took how many days? It took September 27, October 1, November 8. It took 42 days for people to respond. 42 days for people to respond. Days for people to respond. So is Sri Lanka efficient market or a weak market?
Overall a weak market, sir.
Yeah, very good. Overall a weak market. Very good. But sometimes there are patches of strong characteristics. Patches of strong characteristics. Right? Now, recently, very, very recently, last week, again, LOLC group bought a large hotel. What is the name of that hotel? I forget. If you allow me to log into my share portfolio, I will tell you what that hotel right now. I think I need to give you the name of that hotel for sure. I was too late to read.
Martis?
No, I'll tell you what it is. I'm now in my share platform. Oops, what am I saying?
I think Serendip Hotel chain, Club Dolphin.
Palm Gardens, Palm. The share says Palm. I think something to do with Palm Garden or Palm. The share goes as Palm. So the palms were bought by LOLC. And just like the Danko tour example, people responded very fast and very positively to it because they thought under the LOLC group management, Palm hotels will do very well. But this time, the purchase happened on a Monday and the share price started shooting up from Wednesday onwards. So the market responded in 2 days. Right?
So, is this due to the technical advancements of the stock platforms? Because in year 2010, there were like lack of mobile devices, mobile apps to perform stock purchases. But now people can purchase from their mobiles.
Could be that, could be due to social media. Now there are WhatsApp groups between friends who quickly reconcile and take decisions. Could be. Questions?
So what about the factors like, say, for example, if say LOLC or other company buying the stake of another company, then to get the majority stake or to get the fully owned subsidy, like 100%, they might offer a price to the stakeholders, like shareholders. Then minority shareholder will be speculating that the giant who acquire this company will be giving the premium price. Won't that be another like a scenario that people will be like a pool market kind of a thing? They will be speculating. Yeah,
that is right. That is not fundamental. No. So I think my advice to y'all, if you all are playing in the market, you should always stick to the fundamentals. If you start following trends, you will always burn your fingers. But there are enough and more fundamental news which is coming into the market. I'll give you another simple example. If you're listening carefully, Expo Lanka, the share was trading around 20-25 rupees. Came the lockdown. With the lockdown, most of the commercial flights to Sri Lanka was stopped. As a result, air cargo coming into the country and air cargo going out of the country was seriously hit. Because earlier, if 100 flights came into Sri Lanka, now only 5. So how does the cargo go? What did Expo Lanka do with their Japanese partners, Sagawa? They quickly started bringing in charter air flights. And anybody who wanted to bring down cargo could subscribe to the charter air flights operated by Expo Lanka. Prices were exorbitantly high, but you had no other option than to use Expo Lanka. As a result, an Expo Lanka group, which generally was making about ₹1 billion profit, started making 8 billion a quarter. And if you are a smart investor, moment Expo Lanka brought in those charter air flights, and if you're a smart investor and if you have a calculator, you should figure out that Expo Lanka share is going to go up. There's no doubt. ඔගලන්ට වචන 3000ක report එකක් ලියන්න පුළුවන් නම් on a boring topic, right? විනාඩි 15ක presentation එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් on a economic bubble, ඔගලන්ට මේක තේරුම් ගන්න බැරි වෙන්න විදියක් නැහැ. So Expo Lanka share shot up from 20 rupees to 65 rupees. Now it is down to 53 rupees. Right? So imagine if you bought 100,000 shares of Expo Lanka when it was 20 and when Expo Lanka was bringing down these charter flights. And imagine you sold it at 40 rupees. Just take a calculator and calculate your profits. 100,000 shares into 20 rupees. Zero risk. Right? ඔය උදේ ඉඳන් රෑ වෙනකම් වැඩ කරලා බොස්ගෙන් බැනුම් අහලා හරි රස්තිය හදුවලා ලක්ෂ දෙකක් තුනක් ගන්නවට වැඩිය මේක දවස් දෙකේ ලක්ෂ දෙක ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? All what you need is a very clear mind. Right? Don't follow trends, just follow fundamentals. Right? So I'll give you a few more examples. Right? Bairaha farms. This is when the tourism industry took a turn in Sri Lanka in 2009. Hotels started filling up. Million tourists started coming in. And they were very hungry tourists. And as a result, they ate a lot of chicken. And as a result, there was a chicken shortage in the country. And as a result, a kilo of chicken shot up from 200 rupees to 400 rupees. Right? And that's the profits made by Bairaha farms. And you can see how it reflects in the share price. So fundamentally, the share price should move from 50 rupees to about 200 rupees. So you can play this market and make a lot of money between 50 rupees to 200 rupees. This is craziness. This is y'all who don't know why the share is going up and you're buying it and burning your fingers. Right? So if you keep your eyes, ears open, you can make a lot of fundamental decisions. Last local example, probably, when Department of Motor Traffic and the Sri Lankan government reduced the taxes of luxury vehicles, right? The taxes of the luxury vehicles were reduced in November 2010. When you reduce the taxes of luxury vehicles, in Sri Lanka, there are 3 types of luxury vehicles: Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi. And there's no doubt that good 60-70% of the luxury vehicle market share in Sri Lanka is Mercedes-Benz. And who is the authorized importer of Mercedes-Benz cars into Sri Lanka? Demo. Right? Demo. So any fool can identify, with the luxury vehicle prices reducing in 2010, Demo profits are going to skyrocket, because Demo is the agent for Mercedes-Benz. So this is what happened to the Demo share. From a mere 175 rupees, it went up to 1,800 rupees. So the news hit the market here, and the share price went up crazily, but it took 2 months for people to respond to this. It took 2 months for people to respond to this. See, November, January. So then what is this? Why is this little hike? Even before the news, why is this little hike? That is due to the kasukusu. That is due to the kasukusu. දන්නවද වැඩක්? ගවර්න්මන්ට් එක ටැක්ස් පල්ලෙහාට දාන්න හදයි වගේ. ඒ අපේ පොලිටිෂියන්ස් ලටත් කට තියන් ඉන්න බෑනේ. කියනවනේ අපි මෙහෙම කරන්න හිතන් ඉන්නවා මෙහෙම කරන්න. So that is kasukusu. ඒ kasukusu. So even to kasukusu, share price went up from 200 rupees to 1,000 rupees thanks to kasukusu. Right? දන්නවද වැඩක්? But the real news came officially here. So the market can even turn due to kasukusu. Right? Questions? Let me now read the 2 texts we have received. First one, in Sri Lankan markets, can we say that the only company related news that drives stock prices? We saw a lot of irrational investing during the past couple of months, resulting from low interest rates due to sudden price hikes. Yeah, low interest rates, people are not interested in keeping the money in the fixed deposits. So they are looking for investments. One very clear target is the share market. So which increases the liquidity of the share market. The liquidity theory, we discussed it last week. No? Second question. Today, the investors are very busy. Some investors only see this share increase after the piece of news. What are the more efficient methods in Sri Lankan investors can use to know the price changes as early as possible? This must be cost effective than using intermediaries. See, you need to be very vigilant on your news, right? And you need to have the ability to convert those news items into decisions. Now, let me give you another example. This is something which I'm contemplating now. Dollar is crazy these days. You know it, I know it, right? I feel that the dollar will go up to about 220, 230 moment the government releases its artificial pressure on it. So imagine when dollar goes up to 230, the profits which can be made by an export company, a quoted export company, right? Because earlier when they exported a dollar, they got 180 rupees. Today, when they exported a dollar, they get 230 rupees. So imagine the profits they are going to make. So think of a company traded in the stock market, doing exports, dip products. What are they doing? They are exporting gloves, hand protection. So imagine the profits of dip products. Got it? So why can't we buy dip products now and keep it, right? 3 months later, we could all be laughing, right? See, smartness of analyzing information. These information are seen by you, seen by me, seen by everybody. But the responses are different. Got it? Will there be a change of stock price if a company has hired an expert manager? Yes, Prema Kure example I gave you for Amaya Reef. Or a restructuring. Yes, Danko to a porcelain example, when the news hit the market that Japs are going to buy it. This is a negative example. When Volkswagen was caught in tampering with the emission details, the US government issued a heavy penalty on the Volkswagen. And it was announced to public on 18th September 2015, right? Announced to public. This is 18th September 2015, announced to public. Within a matter of hours, the share price dropped. So that's how efficient the European and the US markets are. You have no time. Toilet එකට යන්නවත් වෙලා නැහැ. Information එක ලැබුණොත් ඒ වෙලාවෙම respond කරන්න ඕන. If you delay your response like Sri Lanka 30 days, 50 days, no chance. Got it? Okay. I'm going to show you a small video. Yeah.
In that case, knowing that kind of information, if we are supposed to sell it, that means again there is a greater fool. Even in this kind of a situation, the sold shares will be buying. Is it?
Very good. That's a very clever. What's your name?
I'm Randima, sir.
Yeah, Randima, very clever observation. It could be due to two reasons. One is greater fool, because Randima must be thinking when the whole world is selling the shares, why am I buying? Am I the greater fool? Very good. The second is could be information asymmetry. Information asymmetry means I know something which Randima don't know. I heard the news that Volkswagen is in trouble, but Randima still don't know that news. So I am selling, Randima is buying. Information asymmetry. So it could be a combination of greater fool and information asymmetry. Very good question. Very clever question. More questions?
So, excuse me, sir. Sir, but when we buy from the secondary market, we buy through the stock brokers, right? So we have got experts. So they can advise in such situations, right?
Well, stock market experts, I have my doubts. Yeah, stock market experts can advise, but their advice don't always work. No? You need to be much smarter than your stock market broker. Okay, I'm going to show you a video. The challenge is this. You will have to tell me after you saw this video, what would you do to United Airlines shares? Okay, we start now.
Come on, come on.
Can't the pilots drive to Louisville? Can't they rent a car for the pilots and have them drive? No! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! No! My guys, my God! What are you doing? No, this is wrong! Oh my God! Look at what you did to him! Oh my God!
All right, guys, very simple question. You saw this in the news, or one of your friends tweeted you. Would you buy shares of United Airlines or would you sell shares of United Airlines?
Sell.
Yeah, obviously, no, sell. Why would you sell it? Because there are a lot of people who are angry about it. For a short period of time, United Airlines will lose sales. for sure, maybe a short period until people remember this, maybe 3 months. So they'll have a bad quarter, and a quarter results could impact the year's results. So the next year, probably there would be a dip in profits. And if you have shares now, please sell it. So this is what happened. The incident happened on Monday night at 1850. Monday night 1850. Monday රෑ 6:50ට තමයි incident එක සිද්ධ වුනේ. Please observe what happened to the share Tuesday morning. That's how unforgiving US markets are. පස්සපැත්ත කසලා shares ගන්න ගියොත් වෙලාව ගිහිල්ලා ඉවරයි. ටොයිලට් එකට ගිහිල්ලා shares ඊට පස්සේ දැන් මට පොඩ්ඩක් මේ ටොයිලට් එකට යන්න ඕන මම ටොයිලට් එකට ගිහිල්ලා ඇවිල්ලා මේ වැඩේ කරන්නම්. You are too late. I need to eat my hamburger and then I will buy my shares. You are too late. You don't even have time to drink a glass of water, right? Information comes, information gets processed, information gets reflected, right? You saw that in both the Volkswagen example, positive or negative, and United example. If you think ඇත්ත තමයි මේ incident එක වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ මම ඔෆිස් එකට ගිහිල්ලා බලලා මගේ ස්ටොක් බ්‍රෝකර්ටත් කතා කරලා ඩිසිෂන් එකක් ගන්නම් කියලා හිතුවොත් ඒ වෙනකොට ඩොලර් එක ෂෙයා එක ඩොලර් 4ක් වැටිලා ඉවරයි, right? So that's how unforgiving some markets are. So the point I'm trying to get at is some markets are extremely efficient, some markets are extremely inefficient. In an inefficient market, even after a piece of news, you have enough time to respond. But in an efficient market, you will not have that time. You need to be literally on your screen 24/7 to process and take your decisions. So you ask yourself, in an efficient market, how do I beat the market? I can't, because when I see a piece of news, when I try to respond to that piece of news, I am always late, right? When I see a piece of news and when I try to respond to that piece of news, I am always late. I can't make money or I can't avoid losses. So what do people do? They get into a very bad habit of insider trading. What does that mean? It means you try to get information to your hands before it becomes public news. You try to get information to your hand before it becomes public news. Before it becomes public news. Right? Now let me go to this Amaya Reef example. Mr. Prema Kure joined Amaya Reef here. This is where Mr. Prema Kure joined Amaya Reef. Right? Prema Kure joined Amaya Reef. What if Prema Kure's appointment letter was issued somewhere here? What if Prema Kure's appointment letter was issued somewhere here? Right? What if this appointment letter was typed by a secretary? What if this appointment letter was typed by a secretary? What if this secretary has a boyfriend who is a stock trader? So this secretary tells the boyfriend, do you know what? Prema Kure is joining us. These are all hypothetical things, please. Then boyfriend asks the secretary, Are you sure? Yeah. Prema Kure is joining us. But then the boyfriend says, but there's nothing in the news. No. There's nothing in the news. No. Then the girlfriend says, the secretary girlfriend says, no, nothing in the news yet. But I'm the one who typed the appointment letter. I'm the one who typed the appointment letter. Now the boyfriend, through the girlfriend, is in possession of a very important news item. Very important news item, which is yet to be public. Which is yet to be public. So, public, people like Ravi Edrisinghe will get to know about this news only on this date. But this boyfriend, through the secretary girlfriend, knows this news few days before me. So he has more response time. He has more response time. And if he goes and act upon that information and buy or sell shares and make money before the general public, we call it beating the market. This is a criminal offense. And the boyfriend for sure and girlfriend maybe both will go to jail for doing this. So this is called insider trading. So for insider trading to be considered a crime, there had to be 3 boxes ticked. Was the person privy to insider information before the general public got to know? Premakure example. Secretary who typed the letter went and told the boyfriend. Now is boyfriend in possession of information which is before general public? Yes. Did the person act upon it and bought or sell shares? If the boyfriend goes and buy Amaya Reef shares, then the second box is also ticked. Did the person enjoyed financial benefits or avoided financial losses? If the third box is also ticked, it is a criminal offense in any country. In the United States, for rape you get for rape and murder you get 84 months imprisonment. For insider trading also you get the same imprisonment. So in United States, the criminal punishment for insider trading is as same as rape and murder. Right? Raj Rajaratnam, a Sri Lankan, but unfortunately got popular for wrong reasons. What did Raj do? Raj is a stock trader, a professional stock trader, but he had people planted in large companies like Ford, Nokia those days, Microsoft, so many companies. At what capacity? In the capacity of personal assistants to chairman, secretaries, business analysts, accountants, all that. So these people tend to feed information to Raj before it hits the general public. Example, a made-up example. This is not a true example, only to explain this case. Somebody from Nokia, this is a made-up example. Somebody from Nokia might call Raj and say, Raj, you know what? We are launching a new product. So Raj will say, I didn't see it in the news. So it's not in the news, but I'm telling you. So Raj now gets to know from an insider at Nokia, which he's paying to get this information, that Nokia is getting ready for a launch of a new product. So now he got to know this before the general public. So he has that extra few days to purchase Nokia shares before the general public does. As a result, Raj can make better money. He is a criminal offense. It is a criminal offense under insider trading. So he actually went to jail for 84 months. Do we have questions?
So what is your view on the short seller market who thrive on the market crashing down?
Shall we stick to insider trading related questions? Otherwise, we will.
Okay, sir. Okay, sure.
Excuse me, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So can people be coaxed unknowingly into insider trading deals by, let's say, a broker? And like, for example, let's say if that person becomes like an angel investor and they think that they are giving the money for a good reason, but through the line of events, they realize that they were actually a part of insider trading. So where is the fine line between taking a valid hunch and investing and actually knowing and investing in something that's gotten through insider trading?
Very good question. Insider trading is a criminal punishment. In criminal law, I'm not a lawyer, intent is a very important point to prove. You have to prove to the judge that you had the intent, right? So there also, if you unintentionally do it, if you didn't have the intent, you might get away, right? Now, let's say, for example, the secretary who told her boyfriend about this Premakure letter. The boyfriend must have gone and bought shares. And out of that profits, she must have bought this girlfriend a diamond ring or something, and which she happily accepts. But she did not have the intent. She must have thought that the diamond ring is coming back to her out of love or something, but not out of insider trading piece of information. So she might not go to jail. But the boy who had the intent, no, he knew he's beating the market. So he might. So my question is always look at it from the intent point of view, right? If he had the intent to beat the market, it is insider trading. I'll give you a couple of examples related to Sri Lanka. Ana Punchiheva, when he was running Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola had a board meeting, and there were very sensitive information related to Coke's future plans discussed at that board meeting. And generally, Coke, being a public quoted company at that time, Pure Beverages, had to publish this to the share market. But Ana did some shares trading under his own account before this information were published in the share market. So as a result, Ana was convicted of insider trading, but not punished, but it was convicted. Michael W. Mack, who was the chairman of Aitken Spence. Aitken Spence had a board meeting which discussed of certain shares of a subsidiary. So Michael W. Mack realized when this news hit the share market, there will be changes. So what did he do? He acted before the news became public and did some private share trading. And Michael W. Mack of Aitken Spence, chairman of Aitken Spence, was convicted. Navaloka group of companies had issues. Arpico, Richard Peary's company group have had related issues. So my topic to our two teams next week is insider trading in Sri Lanka. Insider trading in Sri Lanka, right? What are the instances where people got caught doing insider trading? The theoretical background will be how to prevent this, what is insider trading theory, who is an insider, who is a tippy, who is a tipper. And having covered good ground in theory, insider trading examples in Sri Lanka. And you will be surprised to see how many. Nobody went to jail yet, but it is a lot. Pick up one or two examples, I don't want many, and go into some details. And finally, bring your viewpoint as how damage insider trading can do into a share market. Because if you lose the confidence that no matter how smart you are reading the news, analyzing the news, and trying to take a decision, but somebody who know that news 4 days before you, so you are a fool then, right?
So one more clarification.
Yes, please.
Can the company itself can use these insiders to manipulate their own share prices in the market?
Can do. That is also an criminal offense. The board of directors could be responsible if they do that. What's your name?
Edgar, sir.
Edgar. Very good observation. All right. Let me give you
Excuse me, sir?
a few examples. Yeah.
Yeah, just another small clarification. You mentioned, sir, like in your lecture that like one of the things for insider trading is when it is not published in news already. Like I just have a small clarification now. Nowadays, news travels like faster than before. Like there's a lot of mediums where news is shared, social media, Twitter, so Facebook, and all of that. So then there are a lot of self-proclaimed journalists as well. So when it comes to taking news, like say for example, some of these news can be shared in a platform which is not very much recognized in the market, and then maybe when things get escalated, if they were to say that this was shared in this platform and get away with it, can that be a reason for avoiding insider trading?
Yeah, very good. So you're bringing in the question of what is public and what is not public.
Yeah, like how can we get like classify the news source and consider that as a credible source or not?
Yeah, I mean, still, I think Sri Lankan law, public is considered as anything published by the newspapers or approved websites. Anything which is going in the social media, Facebook, WhatsApp is not considered public yet. So if you pick up a piece of information which is circulating in WhatsApp and say that, look, I got it through a public source, the court will not consider that as public. That is still considered private. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So look at this incident. Wall Street Journal columnist Foster Winan was convicted in 1985 for giving information to two stockbrokers about stocks he was planning to write. ඒකට එයා ස්ටොක් බ්‍රෝකර්ස්ලා දෙන්නෙක්ට කතා කරලා කියනවා මම මේ ආටිකල් එක දාන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. I'm planning to write this article, and moment this article hits the news, there will be some up downs in the stocks, and before that, why not you buy? So the share traders bought and gave Winin his cut of $31,000. He went to 18 months in prison for manipulating the market. William Jackson, who is a printer, he was printing a Business Week latest magazine, printing it. So after printing it tonight, it will go to the market tomorrow. While he's printing it in the printing machine, must be a clever printer, he read an article and he saw this article can have consequences of certain stocks. So he called his stockbroker and did some share trading. While the article is in the printing machine, did he get a piece of information before general public? Yes. Did he act upon it? Yes. Did he make money? Yes. He's criminal. Because you and I would only see this tomorrow when the magazine is out. But he's seeing it on the printing machine. So he has information earlier than you and me. Sam Waxall, I think probably the mother of all the insider trading cases. Sam Waxall was in his company Imclone, was developing a cancer drug called Erbitux, cancer drug called Erbitux. This was going to be the biggest revolution in the cancer drug history. Biggest revolution in the cancer drug history if Erbitol was to come to the market. It is like the COVID-19 vaccine. So, first trial passed. Moment the first trial is passed, when it's published to the market, the share price zip went up. Second trial passed. Moment second trial passed, put to the public, zip it went up. Third trial passed, announced to the public, went up. Now the fourth and the last trial. If the fourth and the last trial is passed, Erbitux will come into the market as the most successful cancer drug. So imagine if the fourth trial passes, the share price will go up like this. Similarly, if the fourth trial fails, all this hype, the share price will go down like this. So can you imagine how critical this piece of information of the fourth trial result? If it is a success, share price will go up by another $5, $10. If it is a failure, share price will plummet by about $30, $40. Sam Waxall couldn't sit on his seat. He personally went to receive the report. He went to the Drug Administration Authority, opened the cover, look at the report. Report is a fail. Now, tomorrow morning, you should go to his office and make a statement, public statement, that the report is fail. He is obliged to do that because it's a public quoted company. Public has the right to know. And later, office එකට ගිහිල්ලා public notice එකක් දාන්න ඕන report එක fail කියලා. share එකට මොකද වෙන්නේ? share එක $40කින් විතර වැටෙනවා. What did Sam do today? What did Sam do today? Can you guess what he did today? I want to hear from you. What did Sam do today? What did he do to his shares?
He sold it.
Sold it.
He sold his shares. Not only he sold his shares, he asked his long-term friend, some called her his girlfriend, Martha Stewart, also to sell her shares. So he took a call to Martha Stewart and asked Martha also to sell her shares. So next day, he released this news to the public and the share started dropping. But at what price did Sam sell? Sam sold his shares here. At what price you and I sold? You and I sold here. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Did Sam have a piece of information before general public? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Did Sam use that piece of information and did some transactions before general public? Yes. Did Sam made some extra profits or avoided losses? Yes. So he went into 87 months in prison. 87 months in prison. Now, this is why US markets are so clean. If you get caught, the penalties are unbelievable. So the Attorney General says, I want your hands and the fingers to shake before you do a crime. And I want you think of very, very long jail sentence when you do a crime. So this is why those markets are so clean. People have confidence that even if something goes wrong, the government will correct it. So welcome to the world of insider trading.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not sure about the market mechanism, but I just want to clarify, when you are selling your shares, does other shareholders get to know who is selling it? I mean, when it's available to sell?
No, not by name.
Okay.
Not by name. Questions?
So now,
yeah, please go ahead.
If you have the insider trading, then you have to wait, act on that until the news is published, right? Just after news is being published, you can act on that.
Ah, very good. Who is this? Who asked that question?
So I'm Aruna.
Aruna, thank you very much for asking this question. It's a very, very clever and an intelligent question. What Aruna asks is, let's say you have insider information. Can you use that information after it became public and do your share transactions? Of course you can do. Now, the crime Sam Waxall did was he sold his shares on the previous day. What he could have done right is taken that report. Oh my God, it's a loss. Sorry, it's a fail. Come to office, make a statement to the general public at 9 o'clock. And if he sold his shares at 9:01, then no problem. Because he has acted on this information after he shared it with general public. That's a very, very clever question, Aruna. The mistake he did is he did his share transactions before he released it to general public, which is called beating the market. Market එක පරද්දනවා. Beating the market. I used to work for a public quoted company in my previous job, and my boss always, before he start a meeting, අපිට එක කියලා මන්ත්‍රයක් වගේ කටපාඩම් එක ඕන මීටිමක් පටන් ගන්න ඉස්සලා මේ ටික කියලා තමයි පටන් ගන්න. කියනවා guys, you all are senior directors, this is a public quoted company, and the information what we are going to discuss in the next 1 hour is still not available to public. So please do not do any share transactions till this information becomes public. ඔය ටික කියලා තමයි මගේ boss meeting පටන් ගන්න. ඒක කියලා අපිට යා කියනකොට we also move our lips because it is he must have told that to us a million times. Right? Now, before I stop, I'll tell you some of the systems available in countries like Japan, US, UK. Imagine I am working for let's say I'm working for Ford. I'm like a CFO for Ford, I wish. So they trace my stock trading account 24/7. මගේ stock trading account එක මොනා කරත් ඒක trace වෙනවා by the federal authorities. So let's say I'm the Ford CFO, right? And let's say there is a critical piece of information Ford released to general public, like they are selling one of its subsidiaries, or they are closing down one of the factories, or they are launching a new model to the market. එතකොට මේක රිලීස් උනේ මාකට් එකට ජූනි 1 වෙනිදා කියන්නකො 1st of June කියන්නකො මාකට් එකට රිලීස් උනේ. They will automatically check my share account 2 weeks prior to that piece of news, 2 or 3 weeks prior. බලනවා ඒ නිවුස් එක එන්න සති කිහිපයකට පෙර මම මොන හරි share transactions කළා තියෙනවා. Me being a Ford employee. එතනදී මම මොන හරි critical shares ටිකක් කළා තිබ්බොත් අර නිවුස් එක එන්න පෙර I'll be definitely called for an interview by the FBI. I had to defend myself. And this is the funny part. They will not only trace my account, they will trace my brother's account, my wife's account, my children's account, my father's account, my mother's account, my whole account. Now the latest is they will trace me through Facebook and to see whom I'm associating with, whom I'm drinking with, whom I'm going to the rugby games, football games. කාත් එක්කද මම නිතර එළියට යන්නේ කියලා බලන්න. ඒ අකාගේ account එකක් trace කරනවා. එතකොට මගේ යාළුවෙක් හරි මගේ Facebook එකේ ළඟින් ඉන්න කෙනෙක් හරි මගේ family member කෙනෙක් හරි අර critical information එක release කරන්න පෙර සති කිහිපයකට පෙර ඒගොල්ලෝ transaction එකක් කළා තිබ්බොත් they will also be called into FBI and interviewed. So that's how strict those systems are. But still people do insider trading. So you can imagine how interesting this subject is.
Excuse me, sir. So what is the materiality level of that insider trading? Basically, if I am selling 100 share, might not be the impact to the market. What is the materiality level kind of a thing?
That's up to the judge, no? Like you said, impact to the market. Impact to the market. Up to the judge. It's a criminal offense. Up to the judge to decide. Guys, I need 10 more minutes, not 10, actually 14 more minutes to show you a video, right? I know you have another lecture at 11 o'clock. Now it's 10:26. Generally, this should be the time we should be stopping. But my humble appeal to you is to watch this video. It's a 14-minute video. It is Sam Baxall giving an interview the day before he went to jail. Now the case is heard. He's been convicted. And you have to go to jail now. So he gives an interview which became world famous just the day before he went to jail. So he talks all about this whole insider trading saga. 14 minutes, please watch, must watch, right? Then you will have about 15 minutes for our next lecture, but it's definitely worth it. So I'm going to log out, but my colleague Prabhash will play this. Please watch it till the end. It's a 14-minute video. Prabhash?
Yes, I will switch on.
All right, Prabhash, you can play it.
Of all the white-collar criminals who have been in the news over the past 18 months, none of them has received more attention than Dr. Sam Waxel. An immunologist turned entrepreneur, Waxel developed a promising cancer drug, engineered the biggest deal in the history of biotechnology, and then self-destructed in an insider trading scandal that also led to the indictment of one of his most famous friends, Martha Stewart. This past summer, Waxel became the first CEO convicted in what's become a white-collar crime wave, and the first to go to prison for 7 long years. Tonight, he becomes the first to talk about his crimes in 2 long interviews that were conducted just before he went off to jail. How did you get into this mess?
It certainly wasn't because I thought about it carefully ahead of time. I think I was arrogant enough at the time to believe that I could cut corners, not care about details that were going on, and not think about consequences.
2 years ago, Sam Waxel was one of Wall Street's men of the moment. As the CEO of ImClone, he had just sold an interest in a new cancer drug called Erbitux to Bristol Myers for $2 billion. Everyone expected the drug would soon be approved by the Food and Drug Administration. But 3 months later, Waxel learned from a Bristol Myers executive that that wasn't going to happen. The FDA was refusing to consider the Erbitux application, not because the drug didn't work, but because the data was insufficient. New clinical trials would have to be conducted, and the price of ImClone stock was going to plummet.
What happened was that Sam Waxel did something very, very stupid. He told his daughter to sell her shares,
Knowing that the price was about to go down.
thinking that the price was about to go down.
It's a matter of public record that you tried to sell some of your own shares.
79,000 shares. I had millions of shares at the time, and transferred those shares to Eliza, thinking that if she sold them, that was okay. I wasn't doing the selling.
The 79,000 shares, that's about $5 million worth, right?
That's correct.
You're a corporate officer. I mean, you're supposed to know that you can't do that, right?
Absolutely.
Did you know that the SEC routinely checks the names of relatives in stocks traded when there's a big drop?
Do I know that when I think about it? Absolutely. Did I think about it at the time? Obviously not. I just acted irresponsibly.
You must have known you were going to get caught, didn't you?
No, on the contrary. I was silly enough to believe that because it was such a de minimis amount of my holdings, and because I actually believed that we could rectify the situation with the FDA very quickly, I didn't think I was going to get caught at all.
At the time, Sam Waxel was a very wealthy man, at least on paper. He had made $60 million in the year 2000 and more than $70 million in 2001. But he led an extravagant lifestyle and, according to friends, felt a need to surround himself with powerful, successful people, to be considered a player. How long have you lived here? His Soho townhouse was lavishly furnished with a collection of important modern art. And this is?
A Giacometti.
It's beautiful. And his expenses approached $1 million a month, much of it to service $50 million in debt he'd incurred buying ImClone stock on margin. So when the price of the stock went down, so did his net worth. And he told us he had some short-term capital needs. When was the first time that you knew that you were in trouble?
When the SEC sent notice that they wanted to interview me.
And you met with them?
And I eventually met with them.
And you were less than honest with them?
I was.
Another mistake.
Another mistake.
By early 2002, the government was investigating trades by Waxel, his father, his daughter, and one of his best friends, Martha Stewart, who sold 4,000 shares of ImClone worth $230,000 the day before the bad news broke. When you had the meeting, you said the people from the SEC and the Justice Department were there. Did they ask you about Martha?
Yes.
A lot?
Yes.
Did you get the sense that they really wanted Martha Stewart?
Instead of me? No, I think they liked that they had me, and I think that I got the sense that if they could have Martha, they would be unbelievably happy campers.
But Waxel made it clear to the federal government that he did not give Martha Stewart inside information.
Whatever happened with Martha did not happen because she spoke to the CEO of ImClone. Period. She never did. Therefore, I didn't give Martha Stewart insider information. Period.
She's been one of your best friends. She's been one of your biggest backers, one of your biggest supporters personally, closest friend.
Martha called after she sold her shares to ask me what was going on at ImClone. Stock was dropping that day. There were millions of shares being sold. The rumor was out there on the street. I didn't return Martha's call.
With Martha Stewart's name attached to the scandal, Waxel found himself getting all the attention he once craved.
You swear that the
Only it was the wrong kind and at the worst possible time.
On the advice of counsel, I wish to assert my constitutional rights and respectfully decline to answer.
The Justice Department called it the summer of fraud.
I believe the company.
Enron and WorldCom had imploded. Millions of Americans had lost their life savings and were looking for blood.
I was there. I was just right in front of their sites, and I was easy because mine wasn't complicated. There were accountants and billions of dollars involved. It was real simple.
What's been the worst day for you?
The day I was arrested was a horrible day in my life.
Did you commit insider trading?
It is very difficult for someone who thinks about himself as someone who does good things for society to be led away in handcuffs and thought about as a common criminal.
Did you believe you were innocent at that time?
Did I know that I had committed an illegal act? Yeah, I knew. I tried to rationalize beyond rationality that I hadn't, right? It was sort of playing with linguistics, but I knew.
And so did federal prosecutors.
It was incredibly dumb, obviously, to try and dump that much stock on the eve of an important decision. It was like running around in your underwear in broad daylight.
But U.S. Attorney James Comey says the insider trading was just the beginning of Waxel's problems. When his office began looking into other aspects of Waxel's professional and personal life, they came up with a whole raft of additional charges.
There's that great event in baseball they call the cycle, right? If you hit a single, a double, a triple, and a homer in the same game. There is no cycle in white-collar crime, but if there were, he'd have hit it.
Besides insider trading, Waxel was charged with telling his father and his daughter to lie for him and directing an ImClone employee to destroy documents. He also forged the signature of a corporate officer to fraudulently obtain a bank loan, and he avoided more than $1 million in New York State sales tax by shipping $15 million in artwork he'd bought to an ImClone address in New Jersey. Everybody has flaws. Everybody. What are your flaws that led to this happening?
I could sit there at the same time thinking that I was the most honest CEO that ever lived, and at the same time, I could glibly do something and rationalize it because I cut a corner, because I didn't think I was going to get caught. And who cared? Look at me. I'm doing X, so what difference does it make that I do a couple of things that aren't exactly kosher?
In fact, Sam Waxel had a long history of ethical lapses, reckless behavior, and embellishing the truth. He'd been dismissed from a number of academic and research positions for questionable conduct. One former colleague said, "Cutting corners for Sam was like substance abuse. He did it in every aspect of his life throughout his entire life."
One of my great faults is I refuse to deal with the everyday details that people have to deal with to make sure mistakes aren't made. And I think in that way, there may have been an arrogance where I didn't have to deal with details, that these details were meant for other people, not for me.
A certain carelessness?
A dramatic carelessness.
In the past, someone had always been there to give Waxel the benefit of the doubt, but this time there was no one to save him from himself. He pled guilty to 6 out of 13 counts, but not those involving his father.
What can you say about the negotiation process?
There wasn't one.
There wasn't one?
No.
Did the federal government use your daughter and use your father and use Martha Stewart to try and put pressure on you?
I think that the federal government does anything it can to win its cases. And if I were a prosecutor, I probably would too. You know, I think Martha can take care of herself. But to use my daughter, even to intimate that they would charge her because she tried to protect her dad, was irresponsible, because it's just wrong. I mean, why do it? What do you gain? Who are you deterring? What, my 80-year-old father, who was a hero, who never did an illegal thing in his life? It just wasn't going to, I wasn't going to let that happen.
You took the bullet.
So to speak.
If he has come to the view that he is protecting his father and his daughter, that's a noble thing. I wish he had thought of that before he sent them in to the SEC to lie for him, and then he took the Fifth Amendment, which I didn't think was particularly noble. If he's come around to that view, that's a good thing from a human perspective.
I don't disagree with the U.S. Attorney. It was not a noble situation at that time.
We know what the infractions were from the indictment and what you pled guilty to. What were your sins?
My sins were getting a daughter involved in something that she knew nothing about. That's a horrible thing for a father to do. That's a sin. Putting my employees in a situation where the company that they worked for and loved was being mentioned in the same breath as Enron and WorldCom. And I look at that in many ways as a deplorable sin.
You draw a distinction between what you did and what people at WorldCom and Enron did.
Absolutely. I have a company where not one person has lost their job, where no one's 401k has been hurt. So is it different than WorldCom and Enron? I think so.
I wonder whether you're trying to rationalize some of this stuff. And it's almost like you're saying, well, I violated the law for insider trading, I committed bank fraud, and I cheated on my sales tax. But don't call me a corporate crook. It's like...
Absolutely. I know I did something that was wrong. And I know that I would have, in another point in time, gone to court, and I doubt that the U.S. Attorney, absent other situations, would have ever taken that case to court. This was done because the U.S. Attorney was trying to make an example out of me.
He says, look, I'm not like the people at Enron. I'm not like some of the other people that have caused the bubble to burst and millions of people to lose trillions of dollars in the stock market. What I did was personal. What I did was my own mistake. How do you respond to that?
I think part of that's fair. I mean, he is not someone who caused the collapse of WorldCom, for example. But those people are going to get a lot more jail time than he got. The folks who pled guilty in the WorldCom case are looking at in the upper teens to 20 years of jail without parole.
Sam Waxel says what the federal government wanted and what you wanted was to be able to stand up there at the news conference after the sentencing and say, Sam Waxel is going to jail for 7 years, and we are sending a message that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated. True?
Part of it, yeah. That's the reason I exist, is for general deterrence. I can't catch every crook. White-collar crooks look at the world, they read the paper, they watch TV, And what we're hoping is that they'll picture Sam Waxel as their hand is shaking to move a column of numbers from here to here. They'll think, geez, do I want to go to the pokey for 7 years? And they won't do it.
Has it sunk in yet that you're going to have to go away for 7 years?
I don't think that it's really going to sink in fully until the day I'm there and even afterwards.
Are you despondent?
No.
How would you describe your feelings?
I'm frightened. I am sad. I'm remorseful, and I wish I could turn the clock back and just change certain events at the end of December of 2001.
What have you learned from all of this?
Never break the law. Never lie to the U.S. government. If you've broken the law, don't talk to the U.S. government. But more importantly, I've learned not to be careless and not to be glib about things that you do, because they can destroy all of the good in one fell swoop. And I'm sorry that these events had to take place for me to learn that. But at least I've learned it.
Even in prison, Sam Waxel still has legal problems. His former company is suing him to recover a $7 million severance package, and he's named in more than 24 shareholder lawsuits against Imclone. As for Erbitux, the cancer drug Waxel helped develop, recent clinical trials have confirmed the promising results of earlier studies, and the drug could be licensed by the FDA within the next few months.